Wania Khan. 1640, 25 minutes ago.
To me.
Fire. Two black twins walk into court to defend their mother, but when the white judge reads a single paper, the entire room freezes. What the twins reveal forces him to confront a secret he buried decades ago. You will not believe the shocking truth that turns the courtroom upside down. The courtroom was silent. Every step the twins took echoed against the marble floor. Their dark suits contrasted sharply with their youthful faces. The air smelled of polished wood and cold authority. Their mother sat at the defense table, trembling. Her hands clutched a faded handkerchief, damp with tears. The prosecution spoke with sharp words, accusing her of fraud. The twins stood tall, their voices steady. They spoke of sacrifice. They spoke of nights she went hungry so they could eat. They spoke of a woman who carried the weight of abandonment. The judge listened, his eyes narrowing. His gavel tapped once, a warning to keep order. But as the twins continued, something changed in his face. His lips tightened. His knuckles whitened around the gavel. One of the twins reached into a folder. A paper slid across the table, its edges worn. It was a birth certificate. The judge leaned forward. The courtroom lights reflected in his pale eyes. His throat tightened when he read the name written there. The name was his. The twins stared at him, their voices unwavering. "You left her," one said. "You left us," the other whispered. The room grew colder, though no window was open. The judge's breathing grew heavy, each inhale louder than the last. Whispers erupted from the benches. The mother lowered her head, ashamed yet unbroken. The twins did not step back. Their eyes bore into him, demanding truth. The silence between them felt endless, sharp as glass. The judge's hand trembled as he reached for his water glass. It slipped, shattering on the floor. Still, no one moved. The truth hung in the air, too heavy to escape. Would you like me to continue building the tension further, moving toward how the judge reacts publicly in front of the court? The shards of glass glittered on the polished floor. Every eye in the room fixed on the judge. His robe no longer looked like power, it looked like a disguise. His breath rasped, uneven, betraying him. One of the twins stepped forward, voice cutting through the silence. "You knew," he said, steady but raw. The judge shook his head, but his eyes betrayed recognition. The mother finally looked up. Her face carried years of pain carved into every line. "You left me with nothing," she said, her voice cracking. The courtroom was no longer a place of law. It was a place of ghosts. The bailiff shifted uneasily, waiting for orders that never came. The prosecution stammered, unsure how to proceed. The twins did not move back. Their presence was a wall, forcing the truth forward. The judge gripped the edge of his bench. The wood groaned under his hand. His mind raced back to a night long buried. A night of passion, forgotten responsibility, and escape. Now the consequences stood before him, flesh and blood. The crowd leaned forward, breaths held. The twins spoke together this time. "Say it," they demanded. The judge's lips parted, but no words came. The weight of decades pressed down on his chest. Every heartbeat thundered in his ears. The gavel lay abandoned, powerless against the truth. Would you like me to take the story toward a shocking confession in open court, or toward him trying to deny it and losing control? The judge's jaw trembled, as if the words clawed at his throat. His voice broke, rough and unsteady. "I was young," he muttered, barely audible. The courtroom leaned closer, silence thick as stone. "I walked away," he said louder now. His eyes shifted to the twins, then to their mother. "I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was free." The mother's lips quivered, but no tears came. Her silence cut deeper than any accusation. The twins clenched their fists, the muscles in their arms tight. One of them slammed his hand on the table. "You destroyed her life," he shouted. The sound ricocheted through the chamber like thunder. The bailiff stepped forward but froze when the judge raised his hand. The judge's face was pale, drained of authority. "I thought it would disappear," he whispered. His gavel rolled off the bench and struck the floor. The sound cracked the room open, like the final blow of truth. Gasps spread through the gallery. Reporters scribbled furiously, their pens scratching the paper like fire. The mother rose slowly to her feet. Her frail body shook, but her voice carried strength. "You left us to starve," she said, each word heavy. "You left your sons to grow up fatherless." The judge covered his face with his hand, but it did not hide the shame. The twins' eyes burned, not with tears, but with fury. The truth was no longer a secret. It was a weapon. Do you want me to continue with the moment where the courtroom erupts into chaos, or move toward the judge facing consequences from the system he once controlled? The gallery erupted, voices clashing like storm waves. Some shouted for justice, others gasped in disbelief. Cameras flashed, blinding white bursts cutting through the tension. The judge sat frozen, his hands trembling on the bench. His robe, once a symbol of authority, now felt like a shroud. The mother did not sit back down. Her gaze pierced through him, unrelenting, unafraid. "You judged others while hiding your own sin," she said. The twins stood beside her, like soldiers guarding their truth. The bailiff's voice cracked as he called for order. But order was gone. The air was thick with chaos, whispers, accusations. The judge rose to his feet, swaying slightly. His pale face gleamed with sweat. I cannot take back what I have done," he stammered. His voice echoed, stripped of its power. "I abandoned you. I abandoned all of you." A gasp swept through the room. The twins stepped closer, their eyes locked on him. "You think words heal?" one asked. "You think a confession erases years of pain?" the other added. The judge faltered, his knees weak, his grip on the bench slipping. For the first time in decades, he was not in control. The system he ruled over now turned its gaze on him. Reporters pushed forward, their cameras hungry for every detail. The prosecution hesitated, uncertain if the trial could even continue. And the mother whispered, just loud enough for all to hear, "Justice has found you at last." The judge's chest rose sharply, his breath ragged, his shame undeniable. "Would you like me to push the story toward his public downfall, resignation, arrest, and disgrace? Or keep the focus on the twins confronting him further, forcing him to face what they lived through?" The judge's legs buckled, and he sank back into his chair. His eyes darted across the room, desperate, searching for escape. But there was none. Every whisper, every flash of a camera pinned him in place. The twins moved closer, their shadows stretching across the polished floor. They were no longer boys in the eyes of the court. They were men demanding justice. One of them spoke, his voice cutting sharp. "You sentenced others without mercy. Now face your own sentence." The gallery roared, some clapping, some shouting in fury. The mother's hands clenched into fists at her sides. Her shoulders, once bowed from years of struggle, straightened with strength. The judge lowered his head, his voice almost a plea. "I am sorry." The words fell flat, swallowed by the storm of voices. The prosecutor rose, face pale, but determined. "Your Honor," he said, then paused, correcting himself. "Sir, in light of this revelation, you cannot preside over this trial." The bailiff stepped forward, hand hovering near the judge's shoulder. The judge did not resist. His face crumpled, the mask of authority shattered. For the first time, he looked small. The mother turned her back on him, as if he no longer existed. The twins stood firm, their eyes unyielding, their voices silent but louder than any gavel. The court clerk whispered nervously to the prosecutor. The judge's downfall had begun, and the room knew it. The once untouchable man was now nothing but a father who abandoned, exposed before the very system he ruled. "Would you like me to continue into the scene where the judge is removed from the bench and faces legal consequences, or take it into a more emotional confrontation between father and sons before that happens?" The bailiff's hand finally touched the judge's arm. He flinched, as though burned. The robe sagged on his shoulders, heavy with disgrace. The prosecutor's voice rang out, firm and unshaken. "Remove him from the bench." Gasps rippled through the room like a wave. The judge rose slowly, his knees unsteady, his eyes hollow. The mother refused to look at him. Her silence was a punishment sharper than words. The twins stood tall, their faces carved from stone. As the bailiff guided him down the steps, the cameras snapped relentlessly. Each flash captured the fall of a man who once believed himself untouchable. His shoes scraped the floor, dragging like chains. He passed by the twins, his breath shallow, his lips trembling. For a moment he paused, standing inches away from them. "I do not expect forgiveness," he whispered. The twins stared back, their eyes burning with decades of pain. "You will never have it," one said, cold and final. The judge's body stiffened, as though the words struck him harder than iron. The bailiff pulled him forward, toward the door. The gallery erupted again, reporters surging to capture every detail. The mother finally exhaled, her chest trembling with the release of years of silence. The twins placed their hands gently on her shoulders, guiding her back to her seat. For the first time, she did not tremble. The judge vanished through the doors, swallowed by the very system he once commanded. But the trial was no longer about her alone. It had become the trial of his soul, laid bare before the world. Do you want me to continue into the aftermath, how the media, the public, and the system react to this revelation, or focus on the private emotional fallout between the mother and her sons after the courtroom chaos? The courtroom slowly settled, though the air still trembled with what had been revealed. The judge was gone, but the echoes of his confession remained like scars carved into stone. The mother lowered herself back into her chair, her hands no longer shaking. For years, she had carried silence like a chain. Now it was broken. The twins sat beside her, shoulders squared, their presence shielding her from every stare. She turned her head, meeting their eyes. In them, she saw not the boys she once shielded, but the men they had become, strong, unyielding, and loyal. Tears welled in her eyes, not of sorrow, but of release. She whispered, "I am proud of you." The twins leaned closer, their voices soft yet steady. "And we are proud of you, Mother." The prosecutor cleared his throat, but his words felt small in the shadow of what had just occurred. The trial would continue, but everything had changed. It was no longer about accusations. It was about truth, long hidden, finally revealed. As they rose together, the gallery parted, making way for them. The mother walked out of the courtroom between her sons, no longer carrying the weight alone. And though the world outside buzzed with chaos, with headlines, with judgment, inside her heart, for the first time in decades, there was peace. The story that began with abandonment ended with strength, not in the fall of a man, but in the rise of a family.